All right, and we're recording. So, hey folks, I'm Hollyette, and I am coming to you kind of live from my house. Where else would I be? We're all in quarantine. But we have an awesome show in store for you today that's geared to help you. You know, when y'all come to homes.com, you're there to find the home of your dreams or the apartment of your dreams. Connect with a real estate professional, find some great info on mortgages, and connect with those folks because they're pretty much step one in the process. And if you're like me and the public health crisis that is the coronavirus has derailed your plans to make your next move, you're not alone. So today we're going to bring to you three amazing industry experts to answer all of your questions that you asked us last week on Instagram stories. And seriously, if you have additional questions, throw them in the comments because they are here to help you along the way. And they're seriously qualified experts. So let's go ahead. Let's introduce our amazing panel. And we'll kick this off. So first off, we have none other than the amazing Jennifer McMurray, the executive broker of McMurray Realtors, located in beautiful Northwest Arkansas. She is an accidental house flipper turned realtor and a real estate investor. She's the voice behind the blog Bachelorette Pad Flip and frequently writes for the homes.com blog. Over the past 5 years, Jennifer has paid off over $70,000 in student loan debt through real estate investing. So welcome, Jen. Super happy to have you here.
So glad to be here.
And next up on our property management side is none other than Mr. Brian Corbett. Brian is located in beautiful Greenville, North Carolina, and is the founder of Flagship Property Management. He has built his property management portfolio from the ground up when he got his license as a real estate broker in 2003.
Hello, how are you?
And then last, but certainly not least, we have Ms. Whitney Ortel, a mortgage lender extraordinaire from Town Mortgage. She's been a mortgage lender for more than 13 years and currently lives in the city of Norfolk, Virginia. She's been voted a 5-star mortgage professional in the state of Virginia 6 times. You got to keep that straight. And she's received her BSBA from none other than Old Dominion University. So welcome, Whitney, and please give everyone a round of applause for taking the time out to do this today. So now, y'all, you know the level of credibility we are cooking with today. So let's dive right on into this and answer these really hard-hitting questions. So for our esteemed panelists, to give y'all an idea of where folks are, we polled our audience and about 42% of them said that they were planning to buy a home next year. That's amazing. And then of that 42%, 40% said that their minds were now changed due to the coronavirus outbreak. So I'd love to kick it off and have all three of you chime in, but not all at the same time. What your advice to those whose minds did change and decide to maybe not buy a home this year? So let's go ahead. Jen, let's have you kick it off.
So a few thoughts on that. I know that some of the big concerns right now, beyond being furloughed and laid off, are interest rates, and they've been up and they've been down, and it's just been a roller coaster for interest rates. And I think that might be scaring some buyers. But I think perspective is key, and I think this is something that Whitney could probably tap into here in a minute, is that they're still relatively low. I mean, let's look at perspective here, and you're still getting relatively low interest rates for the opportunity to own a home. But to piggyback on top of that, I think some of the fears and concerns and overarching questions that I'm hearing is, well, what if we're headed towards a real estate crash and I buy now that I've bought at the top of the market? I want it to crash and buy at the bottom of the market. Well, I would say that my professional experience and opinion is we're not headed towards a real estate crash. I think we're going to see some correction, and we might see it soften for a minute, but I think that we will return with normalcy. But if you're waiting to buy for a crash, that doesn't necessarily mean that interest rates will be in your favor at that time in 6 months, 9 months. So what you might save on a purchase price, you're definitely going to spend more over the life of the loan on that increased interest rate. So it is still a good time to buy. I know that you might be scared, but that's why you need a real estate professional to guide you through that and ease your fears.
Yeah, I would agree with Jennifer on that. I mean, and let's be honest here. I mean, there's a bunch of people that say, I want to wait until it crashes, or I don't want to buy now because it's at the peak. if you're that smart to know that this is the absolute peak or that's the absolute bottom, I mean, you've got bigger decisions ahead of you than buying your first time home or something like that anyway. But to her point, I mean, just because the house might be a couple of months, if the interest rates are higher, I mean, you can't bank on the fact that you can refinance a property down the road at a cheaper interest rate. I mean, again, the life of the loan, there's a bigger formula here than just purchase price of the house that someone needs to take into account. And talking to your real estate professional as well as your mortgage professional, and understanding that formula and how to calculate it is very important.
Awesome. Whitney, where'd you go, bud?
We lost her.
You had some knowledge to drop on us.
Oh, you better hit the mute button.
I am so sorry. My groceries just got delivered, so I am so sorry. And the dogs are going crazy right now. So,
welcome to our virtual.
Exactly.
welcome to life from working from home. Okay, I am so sorry. Can you ask your question again?
So a lot of folks have recently decided they were ready to buy a home. This is their year, and now like, nope, this is not happening. So what would you say?
Hang on one second, Holly. Can I come right back to you?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. So we got to keep this show moving right along, little doggies. We're going to come back to Whitney. But right now, I actually do want to know, Jen and Brian, what your thoughts are for the long-term real estate market. You've really covered the short-term real estate market, but I want to know what you guys are thinking about long-term, and then we'll head back onto Whitney to think what her thoughts are on that rebuttal of, I'm not buying a house this year.
I think, in my opinion, the long-term effects are going to be minimal. I think the effects of this right now are all in the short term, and I know that's an optimistic outlook, but I do think the long-term effects are not going to be as drastic as they were in, say, 2008, 2007, 2009 timeframe, when it took us 3 and 4 and 5 years to really recover from that. I think this is a short-lived, less than a year, less than a 12-month process. We may see a small correction in sales prices. As a property manager, I don't think there's going to be a correction as far as a decrease in any sort of rental prices. In fact, rentals could go up. Monthly rent prices could go up just because if people are choosing not to buy for whatever their personal reasons are, the demand to rent is going to be higher, which means our rental rates do tend to increase slightly during a time like that.
I like that, Jen.
Say long term, I'm not concerned about a crash. I don't think I could say that enough. I'm not concerned about a real estate crash. I think obviously our biggest hurdle right now in the long term and in the immediate is making sure that we get all these furloughed and laid off buyers back in the workforce, giving them money in their pockets, the ability to spend on rent or to buy and sell. I think stimulus is obviously one small step towards that, but getting rid of the coronavirus and getting people back in the workforce is going to be the critical step. I think if we can solve that, we're back in a situation where people have spending power and they're wanting to buy a house, still wanting to capitalize on those low interest rates. So long term, I'm not concerned about a crash. We might see a correction, which in my opinion was needed in some markets where we had this fast and furious sellers market where we had bidding wars and people paying over appraisal value on homes. I don't think that's healthy or sustainable. So I think we might see something that is more actually long-term sustainable, which is good for buyers and sellers.
That's great.
And two, if people, once we get past this little pandemic and people can get back to work and can feel more comfortable and normal in life, segueing here to Whitney, I think that actually strengthens a lender's perspective and confidence in being able to make that loan. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. So Whitney, let's go back and circle up to you about what your thoughts are for folks that, they were getting ready to buy, this was their year, and now they're like, no, I am not ready, especially with how volatile these mortgage rates have been. What's your professional opinion and how would you advise folks to move forward?
So it is still a great time to buy. Mortgage interest rates are at historical lows. People right now in the market that are buying are your buyers who have money, have good credit. If you need some credit counseling, now's the time to do it because we've got a little bit of time to get you fixed and ready. So it is a good time to buy. I think if you're ready, now is the time. There's low inventory. We think things are really going to pick up in the next few months. So now's the time to take advantage of getting a great rate and a great deal on a house.
I love it. And then, so what are your predictions for not real estate, mortgage rates for the long term? Jen and Brian had already stated that there's going to be a bit of a correction, but it's not going to take us nearly as long to recover as the economic crash of 2008. What are your thoughts there?
Correct. So we are in a health pandemic. We're not in a housing crisis right now. So this has, an unemployment rate that's definitely impacting the financial markets. People are going to go back to work. People are always going to need to buy and sell houses. So I think that, couple months, 60 to 90 days, things are going to turn around and we're going to have a hot summer. So get ready. Hang on tight.
It's going to be a hot summer. It's already here. I feel that deeply. So Whitney, taking it back to you, you are sitting in the hot seat for a moment.
I'm ready.
You got your grocery delivered.
I got my groceries on my porch. We're good to go.
This is our new normal. My mail is ready to be delivered, so I will probably be introducing you to my dog at some point. So we've seen, as we've stated, those mortgage rates are really heavily fluctuating over the past few weeks.
Yes.
Could you shed on why they are so volatile and then what these folks can do to prepare and protect themselves?
Okay, so we had a refinance boom about a month ago. So we've had to kind of catch up with that, get people working on that. Then, of course, the pandemic hit. So banks are kind of, picking and choosing on who they want to lend to right now. Anybody high risk is going to have a harder time getting a mortgage right now. So that's someone with a lower credit score, no money to put into the transaction, kind of going back to the old school days in the 80s and 90s when you had to buy a house, you actually had to have money in the bank and good credit. So if you're not at that point right now, it's a great time to get with me or get with your lender and start working on getting your credit fixed and you'll be ready to buy. So that's kind of, where we're at. The economy, the unemployment rate, that has a big thing to do with the mortgage rates right now. So as soon as people get back to work and things start picking up, bam. And I think they're going to be low for a while. So it's definitely, we're going to have a good year. 2020, it's coming back. I'm telling you, just a little break right now, but things are going to get better.
Yeah, I don't know what else 2020 can throw at us. Really and truly.
Surely we've exhausted Murphy's Law.
Right? Yes.
Definitely testing our resiliency in the real
For
estate.
sure.
That's true, yes.
I just can't handle any more memes. How bad this year has been. All right, Brian, so we're going to put you in the hot seat for a question.
Okay.
So we actually have a lot of folks in our audience that are millennials and homeowners. So yay, we've gotten out of mom and dad's house. We're moving on with our lives. And now maybe we're at the point of we're ready to start looking at investment properties, or even following in your footsteps and looking into more property management options. But for folks aspiring to be like that, and even our current property managers that follow us, how can folks in this position cope with this upcoming revenue loss, and what can they do to help mitigate those losses?
Well, hopefully there's not a big revenue loss. I mean, just because we're going through this pandemic does not mean that there's millions upon millions upon millions of people not paying rent. For instance, our portfolio that we manage right now is slightly over 500 homes in East North Carolina. We're on pace month to date where we are normally at this point in time every single month in the last 12 months. So fortunately, most of our folks have paid rent, and the ones that have not, some of those are traditional late payers. And then some of them are maybe affected by the pandemic. We have been contacted by some, and we're trying to work with them. The best way to mitigate these losses, hopefully in the past, were putting away some cash reserves that allowed you to buy a little time by having cash. If you're dependent upon that rental income to actually pay your house bills, that may make it tough. Good thing is with the stimulus package and the CARES Act bill, if you have investment property or properties, you likely have it in an LLC or something. Maybe you can discuss with your banker several options. One, getting some of the loans that are available for your loss of income, and two, possibly even deferring a payment or two or three if you have a tenant that is not paying rent due to a loss of their job. Your bank should be allowing you to defer those payments without penalties. In fact, I think that's a federal mandate now that they can defer those without any kind of penalties, allowing you to catch back up and get things back into normal speed when your tenant comes back to work and they get their stimulus money. Maybe they can get caught up as well. So main thing is communicate with your tenant and make sure you are staying on top of what they have going on in their life and try to work with them to get everybody on page one.
That's great. Thank you so much for those wonderful insights. I know that's going to help a lot of folks. So now we're going to shift gears just a little bit. Guys, we're like all over the place because y'all were all over the place when you asked these questions. So we're all here to help. So now we actually have some moving questions. Whether folks are currently house hunting, did this come to a grinding halt? What are their options? And then a follow-up question to that is that are property management companies or previous owners providing any sort of deep cleaning services for these new residents? Like right now in my neighborhood, there was a for sale sign on the house across the street, and it was like people coming in left and right, a lot of new cars I didn't see. And then all of a sudden it stopped. And now there is a sale pending and a sold sign on there. The old neighbors moved out Saturday, didn't even say bye, but that's their problem. And Monday, my husband and I see them walking into the house. And I'm like, did anybody clean this? Like, those germs have not had time to do what they need to do and get dead and gone. So lots happening, especially for me as a concerned neighbor. I mean, what can people do? What are those movers' options here?
So I'll start and then everyone else can chime in as well. I think what I'm seeing the most, I'm going to start with your second question and then I'll go back to the first one. I have not seen any buyers doing a deep clean or offering that. I think that is a great marketing tool to stand out in the crowd. I think what I'm hearing, all of my buyers are saying we're hiring someone to sanitize before we move in because they want to oversee the process and make sure that it's done, up to their standards, which I think is smart. Any home, whether you're renting or a home that you've purchased, needs to be deep cleaned and sanitized before you moved in. It should have always been that way, but more so now. But if you're knee deep right now, or you were in the home search process and now you're kind of like a deer in headlights, like what do I do? There are still options. Some states, like where I'm at in Arkansas, we're still showing property. So you can still go into homes if you wish. However, what is more ideal is everything virtual home showings, virtual open houses. Agents, if there is a silver lining here, is that agents were working to reinvent the wheel to meet the current needs of our buyers, and the current demand from buyers is virtual everything. I think Redfin just said they saw a 494% increase in a demand for virtual showings. That's what people want. They want to sit in the safety and comfort of their own home, but still look for apartments or look for houses for sale without putting themselves at risk. So I think that is something that they definitely should be pursuing with whoever they're working with, whether that is their agent or a property manager looking for apartments or homes to rent, is asking about what virtual options exist.
Yeah, I agree with Jennifer. And I don't think that's actually going to be a trend. I think part of that is actually going to be a new thing. It's going to pick up steam once people realize that that is a thing that can be done, not just during a pandemic, but as a general rule, once we get past this. So as far as speaking to what they could do if they're looking for a home or a townhouse or an apartment or something for rent, you can still do so. Find your proactive property management companies that are proactive in their marketing efforts. For instance, a 1-bedroom, 1-bath home with us is going to average, 25 to 30 photos. There's not much you can't see in 25 or 30 photos of a 500 square foot apartment, right? And we also do we also do video walkthrough tours for all of our vacant properties. One thing we have quit doing right now is showing occupied properties. So if tenants are moving out or an owner's moving out, we're not clashing people together inside of a home or where folks are living, kind of respect for the social distancing thing. Don't want to put anybody in an uncomfortable situation either. So before someone moves in, we're not moving somebody in next day like your neighbors were. We do our proper terms, which includes cleaning, and then before they pick up their click keys, we're sending our cleaning crew over there again to do another Lysol basic clean on hard surfaces, because there have been showings, or potentially have been showings, self-access showings throughout the time that it took to find somebody to lease the property. But find the proactive property managements that have a lot of pictures, a lot of virtual tours, a lot of video walkthroughs, and see what you can see there. I mean, you should be able to find somebody, and if you can't, if there's a property that you like that they don't have as much of that, maybe contact them, see if they'll go over there and do a video walkthrough for you. They should be able to during this time, at least if they're smart, because I think that's where a lot of this is going right now.
I think that's so great too, because this is really going to change the game for folks like looking to relocate that, can't come out every single weekend and look at different homes, or even really change the game for those for different accessibility limitations as well. I know a lot of telehealth prompts have really opened up a lot of doors for folks with accessibility there. So this is just no different, and makes hopefully a bit of a friendlier place for everyone. So, all right, Whitney, we've been putting you on the back burner, but you're up to bat now. We got to put you in the hot seat. Can you tell us a little bit more about refinancing opportunities, and if that's still a good idea during this time? And are banks still willing to make that risk with folks?
Yes, so it may be a great time for some people to refinance. Again, the rates are at historical lows right now. So if you do have equity in your property and you want to lower your interest rate or lower your term from 30-year to a 15-year, it is a great time to refinance. People that do not have the good credit scores, don't have any equity in their property, it's kind of hang tight for a little bit. But if you do fit that criteria, great credit, equity, lowering your term, you will start the term over. I do have to disclose that. But yes, it is still a great time to refinance.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, then we got a couple of zingers lined up for you. A lot of folks that, we've mentioned, like, so much of this process has just come to a halt. And some folks still have their listings currently on the market, or they were getting ready to list their home. Do you think that these folks should keep their listing live? And how can a seller, if they're choosing that, make sure that their home is still getting exposed and their agent's doing what they need to be doing?
Right. So I think to answer if you should keep your listing live, geography is a big determiner on that. If you are in a hot zone, if you're in New York City, my advice would be absolutely you need to yank it from the market, because our goal every time we list a property is we want the most eyes, the most qualified buyer eyes on that property, whether it's in person or now virtually. And to be real honest, there are just, bigger fish to fry in a hot zone right now than real estate. So I think we're seeing less eyes because there's such a health crisis in these hot zones. If you're not in a hot zone like me, I'm in Arkansas, and that's just not the scenario for us, then I would absolutely advise to go ahead and proceed with listing, keeping it on the market with protocols in place. This is not just your realtor should be planting a sign and putting the property on the MLS and calling it good. You're going to need a very proactive, innovative realtor that can market your property, that is willing to ditch the days of I'm just going to take the picture of your property with my cell phone and there's their reflection in the bathroom mirror and their fingers are in the, like, that's, come on. We got
I love those the best. Those are my favorite listings. And the dirty mirrors. Love that.
And the dirty mirrors. We absolutely, I think if you are a seller, the non-negotiables for you to demand of your realtor is that they are offering high quality professional photos. They're offering virtual tours. They are offering e-sign. They're offering curbside closings. They need to be upping their game and reinventing the wheel through the transaction process and through the showing process. I know that for all of my listings, I have COVID requirements in place for every agent that is still showing my listings, because we are still an essential service here in Arkansas, and that includes them wearing gloves. They can't touch surfaces. If they want to bring bleach wipes, we encourage that. If the sellers want to provide disinfectant wipes, and if they have masks, if they have been sick, we ask that they don't show it, or if their client has been sick, or if they've traveled outside of the state of Arkansas, we tell them that they are not eligible for a showing, but I'd be more than happy to then again do a virtual showing for that agent. I think it's just having that very open conversation with your realtor and looking at them and saying, what are you doing for me to get my house sold? If you don't like their answer, maybe that's not the realtor you need to be working with.
I get
Yeah.
here.
I agree with Jennifer 100%. The days of, throwing a sign in the yard, taking a few basic pictures and waiting for a contractor and offer to come that kind of been behind us anyway. Realtors with all the technology that's out there, real estate professionals should have already been using some of this higher end technology because the days of the internet are getting stronger and stronger when people are looking for houses, and you want to have the strongest presence you have. A front of a house picture from 200 feet away as you're driving out the window of your vehicle is not the best way to do it. It should be a professional photo that's edited professionally. That's what needs to be happening. And if your realtor is not doing that or not willing to do that, just like she said, that might not be the right realtor or property manager for you. I see some, competitors in the property management field that, have 2 or 3 pictures of a place. And this day and time when people go online looking for properties, that's not a good fiduciary duty to your client, which is the property owner.
Right.
Because you're not doing your best effort to try to get their property rented or sold to high quality tenants and or buyers, whichever one you're in. So I think it's super important to find a property management company or a real estate broker, real estate professional that is doing everything in their power that they can to give you all of the tools in their tool belt. And if they're not, make your own decision. I don't want my house sitting there forever.
Sounds like a lot of people are on notice now. So step up our game, really and truly. It's a new uncharted era. What better than to experiment with all these new technologies and just make your stars shine a little bit brighter. So
that's right. I think the cream is going to rise to the top whenever it comes to real estate professionals and property managers. The ones that are doing these things already, or at least willing to implement them now, are the ones who are going to, still be in business when this is over, and most likely have grown during this time if you've done it correctly. So
I feel it. All right, guys. So it looks like we are running a little bit out of time today, just trying to be respectful of everybody's time. But I would love to close out today's show with some last words of wisdom from each of y'all to our folks at home. Whitney, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with you, and then Brian and Jen, and then it's almost 5 o'clock somewhere, y'all.
Yay. Okay, so my advice right now is communication. So it is very important to stay in constant contact with your realtor, your property manager, your lender. Communicate what's going on, see what's going on with the rates. They're changing daily, what's going on with the guidelines on programs. It's just communicate. Now is the time, FaceTime, text, there's so many tools. Zoom, I've used Zoom more than I've ever in my life. It's a great thing. So, just stay in constant contact with the people that can help you. So it's just very important.
Yeah, my tips and parting thoughts are just don't get discouraged. If you're needing to find a place to rent or find a place to buy, there are still means to look for those. You don't have to just hit the brakes and stop everything just because this pandemic is upon us. If you don't feel comfortable going into properties where other people live, don't go. Look at vacant properties, even if they're listed for sale. That's what you're doing. If you don't, same thing with apartments. If you don't want your realtor to even go with you to see an apartment, find a property management company that maybe has self-showing options, or talk to them about what their options are for meeting them there. Just open the door. Do something, but don't hit the brakes and stop. Now is a perfect time to be buying and or selling or renting a home if you need to. Just find the right ones with the technologies to fit your lifestyle now.
I would chime in and just say, don't panic. If you take away nothing else, take away that. A panicked buyer or a panicked seller is a bad buyer and a bad seller, and we don't want anyone jumping or diving headfirst into terrible decisions during this whole coronavirus. That's why you need an experienced team that's guiding you through, that will keep you calm and prevent the panic. And that comes with an experienced realtor that knows what they're doing, that is actively scrambling to reinvent the wheel to help you. That comes with a mortgage lender that's accessible and that is communicating with you about your options. So make sure that you are surrounding yourself with a team that you trust, and don't panic.
Absolutely.
This is all so great, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out today and answering all of these burning questions from our homes.com subscribers. I know that we're not live, y'all, but we tried our absolute best to simulate that experience. So this will be coming out. And if you have additional questions, please drop them in the comments. We're all going to be available to answer them. So just because we're not there face-to-face seeing what's happening, we're going to be there. Because like we said earlier, it's a new charted territory. The internet bandwidth is kind of weak, but we're going to make it happen the best way we know how. There we go. There's my thumbs. I can't find them. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much again. And it is time for us. It is almost 5 o'clock somewhere. We'll catch you cool cats and kittens later.
That's right. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.